So we're going to take a quick look at what you know about views so far, and then we'll talk about a couple things that maybe you didn't know about views. So what we know so far. The view is the user interface. So it is the part of MVC that the user actually interacts with. The action methods in the controller are basically used to display the view. And the view has the same name as the action method. So looking here at our home controller, we have an index action method, and you see it says return view. So the convention here is for it to go to the home folder under views and open up the index view, okay, which would be right here. And then if we scroll down, we have an about action method, and we got a little view bag message, and view bag again is an object that we can place values into. It's a dynamic object. And here we've got a message property, and that object and property can be accessed by the corresponding view. And here we are returning a view, and the convention then would be for it to go to the about view. Okay, and here's the view bag message being printed out. We're also setting a little title property up here, and that is also being printed out. Views are typically rendered in HTML, and where you see the @ signs, that is Razor code, and Razor code does allow you to insert some C#. So you'll notice that the extension here is CS HTML or C# HTML. In addition to HTML, CSS, you can also enter jQuery, and you can use a variety of JavaScript frameworks if you wanted to. Another thing that you know, all of the views comprise the body portion of your HTML file. The rest of the HTML file is in layout CSHTML, and that's in the shared folder. And where the views are pulled in is down here where it says @render body. So this is the entry point for all of the home views, any customer view or employee view that we create. Okay, above render body, this is where the Bootstrap menu bar is located and the links. And then you'll notice at the bottom, we are pulling in the script files, jQuery and Bootstrap. And if we were going to pull in anything else, we could do it here as well. When we actually run an application, it will not let us change controllers. In fact, if we run an application and we start keying in changes, you'll see that they're kind of underlined, and it won't let us save those changes until we stop the running app. For views, basically because views are display only, it's not determining any kind of content. The controller is actually retrieving data from the models or determining content and pushing that to the view. And the view is just receiving. Because of that, you are allowed to make changes to your views while an app is running. And you can save those changes and reload the app and see the changes immediately. So that includes your layout view or any other view that you're working on. The absolute easiest way to create a view is to go into a controller, right-click on the action method, and choose Add View. That is the absolute easiest way. It will default by giving the view the same name as the action method. And you could change the name if you wanted to. It also assumes that you're not going to use a data model. However, if you have data models, you would be able to click the arrow and pull those in. And then you can actually choose the kind of view that you want to use. And it will code up how to delete, how to create. It adds all of that code in the view for you. So it kind of generates your form, which is actually awesome. We will be doing that in some upcoming weeks. Then under options, by default, it does use a layout page. However, you don't have to use a layout page if you don't want to. If you want to use all your own custom CSS, you can. So I'm going to cancel here. Hey, that is the easiest way to create a view. Other ways, you could come down to views, and you could right click, and you can go to add, and you can go to view. Okay. You could also do it this way, where you would have to actually give it a name. To me, that is not as easy as just going into the controller. If you go into the controller and you right click and add, it knows exactly what folder to put it in. Okay, so it organizes the views correctly. Now, what you may not know, when in the last exercise where we did a little redirect, and I believe we did that, was that in customer? We did a little redirect to action where we redirected to a different action method. So when they did customer/index, we took them to the list all customer action method. Okay. You can actually do something similar in views. So anytime you have a view, okay, in your controller where you've got return view, you can actually put the name of the view you want it to use in parentheses. So if for some reason I did not want them to go to the about view, I could tell them where I wanted them to go. Okay, so if I save this, and this is in my home controller, if I run it, and I'm going to pause while this is launching. Oh, here it comes. Let's see if it takes too long. And remember, I am doing a little redirect. So if I go to about, it takes me to contact. See that? So here's, I'm choosing contact, but here I'm picking about. And it's routing me to contact. Okay. And the reason it is doing that is because I put that in here. Now, if I remove this and I save it, now it's going to route to the about view like it's supposed to. So knowing that you can route to different views, that does allow you to use if-else statements and switch statements. And I have a couple little examples I'm going to show you. And this first one we're actually going to be coding up. We're going to let the user key in type equals M if they want to go to a manager index. Otherwise, it'll default to an employee index. And so here we're going to pull in a string type and we clean it up and store it. And if they've keyed in an M, then we are routing them to manager index. Otherwise, we are going to the regular one, okay, which is the same name as the action method. And you can even get more complicated than that. This little example, the user actually is picking the page they want to go to from a drop-down list. And then that drop-down value we're pulling in as a selected category. And we're cleaning that up and storing it as endangered type. And then you'll notice that we have a little view name variable that we are initializing to a blank. And then we have a switch. Okay, so if you can envision, there's a drop-down list, and in that list, they can pick critical, endangered, threatened, vulnerable, or least threatened. Okay, whatever they pick, we're pulling in to the controller, we're storing the value they chose, and then we're checking what they chose. So did they pick critical? If they did, we're setting the view name to critical. Did they pick endangered? If they did, we're setting the view name to endangered. If they picked near threatened, we are setting the view name to near threatened. And so for each of these view names, we have a view that we created. Okay? And when we're done with the switch, we are routing to the view name that was filled in. Okay? And one of these is going to be the view name. And you can see that I have a default here. And so the default would be least threatened. So at the very minimal, they're going to get least threatened, but they are then going to route to one of these views. Okay, so this is just an example of what you can do with views. So you're really not limited to just one view per action method. So what our hands-on is going to involve is creating this little scenario here. It's a little simpler. Okay, and the next video will be walking you through that.